Listen, when there are symptoms, yes. When there are not, no. Because otherwise, we're still subject to the manipulation of the diagnosis. Then, as long as there are no symptoms, the symptoms guide me. She's crying, and it's understandable. What would happen if she left? If you were cured, it would probably be a danger. Do you understand? Then in some way, your subconscious proposes to preserve you in a state of health. That way, it's perfect. She's with you. Give his wife the microphone. What do you think about? What do you feel? That's exactly right. It's absolutely as you describe it. Sometimes he feels so devalued, he thinks he's not going to make it, that he doesn't realize that even healed, I'm going to be with him. He doesn't have to be afraid to cure himself. That's the best thing that may happen to him and to our family, because we have 2 children and great plans that are not going to be cancelled. Exactly. Even healing. We've had many talks and many healings. Daniel was born in Salta in 1967. He's also been traveling a lot worldwide. He's currently director of the Biological Decoding Argentinian Institute. He's an instructor, a professor, a therapeutic trainer during the disease and or symptoms biological decoding seminars that he gives each year here in Argentina. He has studied several disciplines as hypnosis, Chinese medicine, the meanings of the letters, the NLP body language symbolism. He has extensive experience. He has performed over 4,000 decodings, and many more decodings are expected today. There is a sentence I would like to emphasize tonight to start thinking about the topics we're going to listen to and discuss. The sentence states, when we say yes and we accept any kind of changes in our lives, we're not afraid of losing our identity anymore. Healing happens when we lose the fear of change. With you, Daniel Gambartte. Welcome to the Luxor Theater. The room is crowded. Thank you very much to come to the Luxor Theater. My name is Daniel Gambartte. Today, we're going to try to decode. I'm going to propose to connect individually in a while. That way, we're going to succeed in connecting. And when we connect, we're going to try to ensure what is at a subconscious level the underlying conflict's mystery. What we don't express, what we don't say. And ends with changing into a code. Tonight, we're going to try to find those codes which are hidden. We're going to try to find a key. My hope and wish are that you're going to help me to do so and collaborate with me to succeed into it quickly, so that we don't have to stop a long time to tell personal stories, but just saying the symptom and the name, nothing more. And from this moment, I'm going to ask you a series of very specific questions that I'm going to ask you to answer in a simple and concrete manner. That way, we'll be able to decode. Each of you, obviously voluntarily, is going to raise a hand. On a voluntary basis, you decide to choose yourself. You're going to raise your hand and say to me, Daniel, I have this symptom. So the symptom that is for me a road map and a GPS is probably going to lead me to determine the kind of conflict, the unconscious stress kept there. And if for any particular reason, until today, some people still have a disease, obviously, not everyone here has a disease, but a person who comes here with a symptom, through this person who is decoding, and as a person's conflict is reflected. Through someone's disease is reflected someone else's conflict. So, we're going to try to do it as fast as possible to achieve this connection. I would say that discovering the meaning of diseases, at least for me, is the most fascinating thing as you can all imagine it. It's not about believing in Santa Claus, but about lifting the veil on how the human body works. Thousands of years ago, humanity has experimented as a conclusion that any disease has a psychic origin. Something strengthened and a firmly established scientific reality in terms of universal knowledge. And at everyone's intuition level, without seeking to devalue the conventional medicine, and even with years of research history, there is no doubt that if we use common sense, we're going to realize that in reality, we always make of us, or they make of us, a lot of chemical formulas. If we would become aware about the real meaning of the disease, we would certainly deliver us from most of our bonds. And one of the most relevant bonds humanity lives, according to my experience and to my observation, is exactly the bond with time and space. All these things we don't know how to let go. We know that we often emotionally live the past in the present, or we live the future in the present. Sometimes we live too much the past in our present, and that's when depressions, bipolar disorders appear. All these diseases human being experiments nowadays, or sometimes we live too much the future in our present, and anxiety disorder appears, panic feelings, anxiety syndrome sensations. We don't know where they come from, why, for what purpose. So, we live in poles. I say that a human being comes to know the law of polarity. A sentence I like states, the human being is obliged to look for what he desires and unconsciously subject to experiment what he rejects. So, we have come to find out the law of polarity. Among polarities, we will see that there is feminine and masculine, yin and yang, cold and heat, fire and air, mother and father, the earth. This means that all these symbols are hope-branded in our unconscious. To be able to observe how our unconscious works, let me tell you a little story to understand how we are all unconsciously connected. Animals, plants, and human beings. The kudu is an African antelope species that loves a taste of acacia leaves. This antelope that loves acacia leaves stops and starts eating these delicious leaves. It likes a lot acacia leaves. And at a specific moment, the plant knows that it is in danger. If the kudu keeps on eating, this plant is going to end up without leaves, which means without shadow. And an acacia plant in the African savanna without shadow, it means death stalks. The plant already knew it. That's why, when the kudu starts eating the acacia leaves, he immediately feels a bitter taste. From this moment, he starts getting away. The kudu doesn't go towards the next plant beside it, but towards the next acacia plant at 400 meters from there. What's happening in this case? At the moment of human history, the kudu, the African antelope, became an endangered species, an almost extinct animal. So this doesn't happen again. Our biological unconscious. We all have a biological unconscious, such as plants. Our unconscious has already a prepared program, a plan, which means that when the acacia plant stays without leaves, the plant straight away turns its venom into wisdom. This is a survival biological program. What's the meaning of survival? It's overcoming an experience. The kudu has also a survival biological program. In the kudu memory is registered the death experience caused by the acacia venom. To ensure this doesn't happen again, the kudu has the intuition he's in danger. There is obviously a very clear message. The venom sent by the acacia plant saves the kudu's life. Because that way the kudu can keep on living and it can keep on feeding from others' acacia leaves. In other words, it feeds on each tree. Then it goes 400 meters away until another acacia plant, and so on. By observing this animal's behavior from our point of view, we could say that if an animal behaves like that, it's alright. Because by observing animals in documentaries, we can see they have different behaviors. And some of them are obviously very strange. And what do we say about this? If animals behave like this, there must be a reason. But what happens if a human being also behaves like this? From our point of view, from our perception, from our metaphor, we could say that some human beings' behavior are very surprising. As, by example, we don't know, but we continuously interpret the facts because we have programs that make us interpret, and this is frequently what makes us seek interpretations. So, the human being metaphorically interprets. What does he metaphorically interpret? The events. So, the kudu saves its life. The acacia plant saves its life. Then, plants next to the first attacked acacia plant. How do they know, or how are they informed that the kudu is not going to stop in front of them? But 400 meters further, it could stop at the next plant, but it doesn't do it. Why doesn't it do it? It doesn't do it because it knows that the other plants are poisoned too. Why? Because the first attacked plant transmits through morphogenetic signals, the morphogenetic fields Rupert Sheldrake was talking about, a great scientist. The first attacked plant transmits to the other plants the danger, which means that altogether, plants beside form a network to repel the aggressor. And this is what we also do as human beings. We have an individual unconscious, such as a kudu. We have a family unconscious, a social unconscious. We have a collective unconscious, as Carl said, and probably a cosmic unconscious. Therefore, we are all unconsciously connected, as by example, tonight. The unconscious connections happen in a very natural way. Generally, we can perceive how those unconscious connections work. I'm going to give you a few examples related to some diseases and their conflicts that cause specific diseases. And you're going to see that you're going to start coughing much more than you're doing it now. Not only you're going to cough, but you're also going to sneeze. And this is a good thing, because it means that data that enter our brain produce their effects. When our brain receives data through speech, language, about what I'm saying now, you're listening to me at present, but maybe you're thinking about something else, about what you're going to do when you get off here, about what you're going to eat, but you don't realize that information, data, enter your brain filterless, just by the simple fact to tell you something related to a personal conflict, about something you've been living in the past and that you still haven't solved. This is personal chord struck, because someone on the stage tells you something in a very specific language, and the person who has this conflict knows exactly what I'm talking about. Of course, I'm going to give you examples in relation to decodings we're going to do. And you're going to see that many of you are going to feel identified with people who raise their hand. Then, you're going to see how the body starts reacting biologically. It's a good thing this happens like that, because it means that it issues a receipt. Awareness. I say that awareness is the ability to connect things. Be able to connect information, the one we hadn't been able to connect until now. That's why the biological decoding, as its name suggests, to decode, which is a cell genetic program implementation decoding. It seems complicated for some of you, but that's what it is about. It's really a cell genetic program implementation decoding where there is data in those cells. Human body is information. It means that everything is information, absolutely everything. The chair, the table, the stairs, everything we can see here, everything we perceive is information. So, progressively, as I am talking, saying things, your body is probably starting to relax under awareness that carries with it an implicit action, which means that the person who receives an information that transmits particular resonance, a biological reaction appears. This biological reaction may also be an emotional reaction, an involuntary emotion that may appear at any time. This is a very good thing when it happens. It means that we are starting to break the ice. So, I'm going to ask you tonight to open up. Just for a moment, stop thinking about what they say. What will they say if I tell this? If I say that related to my disease? I can assure you, according to my experience, that most diseases appear because of what they say. Discursive pressure of the entourage that fills any human being. What are biological conflicts? Human being gets sick because he's got 7 basic necessities. We get sick because we need something. Need to feed and not being able to do so in every sense of the word. Feed, real feed or emotional feed. What's the meaning of the mother? There are all the abandonment conflicts. Need to feed and not being able to do it. The mother is feed, but the mother protects and gives a security while she feeds the child. The child is in contact with his mother when he's born. He needs skin-to-skin contact. No pyjamas to pyjamas, but really skin-to-skin. Skin-to-skin contact grants safety and protection. This child is protected and safe. He most probably won't need to seek much contact nor communication, because he has received his first stimulation. But if this child is abandoned, however, not in a real abandonment by the mother meaning, because many mothers may sometimes give the child up while being present, and sometimes some mothers may give their children up when they can't feed them. What difference does it make? The child unconsciously feels if the mother has or not given him up. A mother that gives him up because she doesn't have the resources to feed him, according to my experience, the child will never feel abandoned by his mother. He may feel separated, but never abandoned. If the mother has life-sustaining resources and she abandons him, then the child unconsciously knows about it. He'll probably look for his mother at a given time, because he has to solve this abandonment conflict. Abandonment conflicts may produce several symptoms, from extreme thinness until obesity or overweight. There, we can find all the abandonment conflicts. For people tonight who are overweight, ask yourself if you want to lose weight. There's no obligation to do it. Well, I tell you. But for people who want to lose weight and wonder how to do, there is obviously a biological conflict coming from childhood, and it has to do with this abandonment feeling. That's what I was just explaining you. Need to feed and not being able to do so. So, abandonment conflicts exist in our society. An abandonment conflict plus a figure conflict may produce overweight or obesity. What is the figure conflict? When someone feels attacked, looking at himself in the mirror, by example, or maybe without the need for a mirror, maybe someone comes and says, "You're a little bit bigger." For the person who has an abandonment program, it's an attack. Notice something. A person feels attacked, but nobody attacks her. She feels attacked because she lives the abandonment conflict with her mother on an unconscious level. People who are overweight will be able to hear and understand me one day. So, it's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to connect with people who have concerns and a few symptoms, and to try to understand how this methodology works. We're going to apply it in an easy way to let you realize, that's it, let you realize and see. How can we apply this methodology to ourselves? We just have to find those situations in our past during which we couldn't say, we couldn't express ourselves. And until today, we still haven't expressed these hidden emotions. So, this is what it is about. Tonight, we're going to try to find these hidden emotions. To do so, you'll have to collaborate. There is obviously a reason that led you here. I guess your intention to come to the theater tonight is to take this opportunity to be able to cure those things we claim healing. So, Use me as a tool, as an intermediary. It's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to connect with you unconsciously. And that way, we're going to try to find those codes that are in our unconscious, need to reproduce, and not being able to do it. There are all the conflicts related to those bottlenecks that many women who can't have children have, but they don't know why. There are all the reproduction conflicts. If a woman wants to have children, but another part of her doesn't want to, the part of her that doesn't want children is occult, unsaid, not expressed. Why does human being has this habit to keep things to himself and not to express what he feels? Survival is always in danger. Have you noticed that the unique reason why we keep silent? We say nothing and we don't express. It's because survival is in danger. What would happen if we started to express and say what we don't even tell our psychologist? Those things we don't say neither to our wife, neither to our husband, nor to our children. What would happen if from now on we would start talking, saying? The clan is most likely to be in danger because the family clan has interests related to survival, which means that in most cases, when we associate with someone, as a couple by example, there are always occult needs that make two people can meet in this world. This is very liberating. Even though it may seem traumatic, it's not. It's rather liberating to be aware of that, because it may transform the couple, it may transform the family. To the extent that we start to be aware of occult things, we don't say, we don't express. We start to express our needs. And from this moment, everything begins to change. So that the person gets sick, the conflict must be vital. It must be something important for this person, because anyone may live a psychological conflict. In fact, we all live psychological conflicts. We progressively solve them, don't we? But some conflicts exceed the limits of our conscious capacity. When this happens, we can't solve psychologically this conflict anymore, as if by chance they are the vital conflicts to our lives, and much more, they are those needs for which we were born. We all have an antidote project. We all have in our unconscious an impetus. We all have an unconscious program that makes we have some unconscious behavior. That makes, at some point in our lives, we can even believe we can choose things. But there is something that goes much further than our reason. That is what makes the choices for our lives.